Welcome to episode 114 of the Charm City Birdwatch podcast. I'm your host, Nolan McGraw, and I'm riding solo again this week. Tried to sit down this morning, tried to get this going, tried to get recording with Ian, get it off the ground, and we had no luck. I can't explain it. I don't know what's going on. Something on my end, something on his end. I don't even know. I don't know where the issue is. Maybe there's no issue. Or maybe it's not our fault at all. Maybe it's just something about today. I don't know. But we couldn't even get off the ground and rolling. So stepped back for a little bit, typed out some more notes, and I'm going to try to do the show solo. Might end up being a little bit shorter because I don't have the most prepared for an hour, but we're just going to do a baseball-centered show because I don't really have anything to say about football this week. I think I said it last week when we briefly mentioned this, the NFL season returning, training camp getting going and all that. We had a lot of question marks, like what exactly are they doing? Like what exactly are they even allowed to do in terms of practice? And there's been some short video clips here and there, Lamar throwing the ball, receivers running routes, that sort of thing. But we just don't have that clear picture like we usually do this time of year. I'm just sitting here like, is this good? Is this bad? Like, to me, and I said it last week, it was almost like maybe no news is good news because you had a mass wave of players opting out. No Ravens. Actually, no, we did have a Raven opt out. D'Anthony Thomas, kick returner, he opted out, and I think he's alone. So no major starter opt-outs. D'Anthony Thomas would have been obviously probably the primary kick returner and punt returner, but there's some other options on this team. I don't think the Ravens are going to be losing any sleep over trying to replace him for the 2020 season, and obviously we respect that decision. But good sign that no notable major Ravens have decided to opt out, that, you know, they're rolling in full force. If we are going to have a season, they will have everyone there. So that's good news. But yeah, other than that, I got nothing really to say. I think no news is good news for now. Everyone's still got their eyes on baseball, and I guess we'll transition into that. You know, everyone's looking at baseball. It felt like this past week played out with almost the same formula as the week prior. Because if you go, let's go back to a week prior. Going into the first full week of the Major League Baseball season, after getting things going in a 4-day weekend, that opening night on a Thursday, through the weekend games. And it was around Sunday-ish when we start hearing about the Marlins issues, a little bit of a flare-up they're having. At that time, it was no more than maybe like 5 or 6 players, which is significant. But knowing the numbers that they reached, that's why I say it was only at 5 or 6, because they end up hitting like 16 or 17. And everyone's calling for the season to be canceled, suspended, just end it. Why did we even try to get this going? And it's this whole doom and gloom crowd. And I'm not saying their opinion is invalid. I'm not saying it doesn't come from a reasonable place because, again, the coronavirus has been just absolutely wild and unpredictable. But Rob Manfred, I said this last week, I thought he handled it properly. You know, he took him in a step back. He said, all right, all the Marlins games for the foreseeable future suspended. They were going to play the Orioles. That series is suspended. The Yankees and the Phillies was suspended because the Phillies were in the team playing the Marlins during that opening series. You let the Yankees come and play the Orioles instead of letting those two teams sit around and do nothing. Great move there. Phillies get back in action after not too long. The season keeps rolling. I said it. I said it last week. You know, there was no reason for anyone outside of that Marlins, Orioles, Yankees, Phillies cluster to have those series missed. Like, tell me why. Everyone else is getting tested on a daily basis, or, you know, every 2 days or something. I don't know what they're doing. That's the other thing. No one knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing here. You can think you've got transparency. I was under the impression that they were getting tested every day. I'm not even so sure that that's a thing. Like, there might be days they roll in there and they don't take a test. So it's just such a weird thing going on. No one really knows what they're talking about, and all you can do is laugh. And it's a serious thing. Like, you hope nobody comes down with this and is severely impacted by this, obviously. But all you can do is laugh, because it just, as much as I want to commend Rob Manfred for kind of looking at this with a level head, when you step back and look at this whole thing as a whole, Major League Baseball season in 2020, 60 games in 66 days, it's just funny. And I don't know if it's going to continue, because, as I said, this past week took the formula of the first week of the season. It was the same thing. We get the season back on track. We're going into the second weekend of the season, this past weekend, and the Cardinals have a little, I don't even want to call it an outbreak, because it was, one or two players, they suspend it started with their first game against the Brewers, that Friday night game. Let's just postpone this. Maybe we can play Saturday, Sunday. That quickly turned into, no, we're not playing Saturday, Sunday. And at the time, it was like two people. I don't even know if both of them were players. Two people in the organization. Just the Cardinals, not the Brewers, by the way. And we suspended an entire series. I don't know, man. It's starting to get a little... I don't know what the right word to use here is, because, again, the reason you suspended that series was you're being safe. You're being safe. Like, I'm not going to say that it was completely unwarranted. Like, I get it. You're being overly cautious. But you had two guys test positive, and you're going to cancel an entire series? Like, what's the point? You know, I've been saying myself, Ian has been saying this forever. For months, it feels like. Either you play or you don't. It's that simple. You know, if you're in the crowd of let's play, you can't be one of these people that's saying, well, okay, you know, the one player tested positive, two players tested positive for this team. Just, you know, suspend their series that they're currently in and reevaluate in a couple days. No. You know, unless we get a Marlins type situation where you have a clear mass outbreak within a team, there's no reason to suspend an entire series. I don't even know if there was a reason to suspend that one game. Seemingly, your justification is we're trying to get a handle on this. We're trying to see just how wide this is spread. What's the scope of this? Let's get a handle on this. You know, how serious is this? Is there an outbreak? Well, everyone's getting tested every day, or everyone's getting tested on a every other day basis, whatever it is. So whatever tests came back that showed you that those two players tested positive for the Cardinals, it's not like they were the only two tested. You know, this isn't like what we had back in March when this whole thing started, where the NBA got shut down like minutes before the game was about to tip off. Rudy Gobert tested positive. We didn't have widespread testing. We didn't even, we were nowhere near where we are now back in March. So, of course, they stepped in there. Whoa, a player's tested positive. We have absolutely no handle on this. We have no idea how far this is spread. So they shut things down. Tested a bunch of other players. Donovan Mitchell tested positive. Some other guys around the league. Didn't end up being a mass outbreak, thankfully. But they shut things down because we didn't have a handle on it. Well, now we got a supposed handle on this. We're testing on a consistent basis. The tests come back for these two players. The rest of the team came back negative. I don't get it. Like, why are we shutting down an entire series because two players tested positive? How can you tell me we don't have a handle on this when everyone's getting tested? The only conclusion I'm going to jump to now is some people's heads are going to spin when I say this, but the only logical conclusion I can draw from this is maybe these tests aren't accurate. Maybe we shouldn't have confidence in these tests. And everyone's, whoa, what do you mean? Are you against testing? No, I'm not. There's no other thing we have to try to get a handle on this. Testing is the only thing we have that we can try to get a handle on this. But as we've seen in professional sports, there's been a lot of gray area. Look at Juan Soto. He needs 2 negative tests in a row before he could return. He's back now, but he needed those 2 negatives in a row to get through MLB protocol. I got no problem with that. It's pretty safe. It's pretty foolproof. In theory, if you don't have the coronavirus, you should have no issues testing positive or testing negative 2 times in a row. Well, he was flipping back and forth. Negative, positive, back and forth. He couldn't get 2 in a row. On either side, couldn't get 2 positives in a row, couldn't get 2 negatives in a row. It's like, well, what's going on? Does he have it? Does he not? Are these false positives? Are these false negatives? What's going on here? I don't know how you can look at that isolated, just him alone, and his, dozens of tests that he took and tell me that you have any sort of confidence in the coronavirus testing system. I certainly don't. And then we get this Cardinals situation where, again, it's just 2 players or 2 or 3 players, 2 or 3 people in the team. I don't even know if they were all players. Test positive. And we shut down an entire series. I just don't get it because, again, everyone else's tests came back negative. So by canceling the entire series, you're telling me that you don't trust the tests. You don't trust them. That all those negatives that came back, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? They came back negative. So at that point, it's like, well, what are we doing here, guys? You don't trust the tests. I'm at a point now where I've acknowledged that the tests are probably not the most accurate, and that's not me saying we shouldn't abandon testing or anything like that. I don't know what we do at this point. But while we're sticking on the subject of the Cardinals, don't let me say that I'm giving them a pass, because again, last week they had the little flare up. We get through the week, the rest of the Major League Baseball is playing. The Cardinals are back on track. They were supposed to start again this weekend against the Cubs. Last night, Friday night, was supposed to be their first game back, and in the early afternoon, a report comes out again. 2 positive tests for the coronavirus within the Cardinals. Tonight's game has been suspended. Like, what? These guys have already missed like 5-6 games. Again, we're suspended because of 1 or 2 positive tests. And then shortly after, the entire weekend series has been suspended. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it goes back to the main point that we've been saying ad nauseum. Either you play or you don't. So if you're truly admitting through this that despite testing people on a daily basis, every other day basis, whatever it is, if you're truly admitting that despite doing that, you have no handle on this and the tests might not be yielding accurate results or accurate enough results to feel comfortable, then don't play. Just don't play. Because it's absolutely nuts and ridiculous to keep putting on this charade where we're changing the rules as we go. We got we're playing, it's already weird enough. If everything was going to work as planned, it's already weird enough. You're playing 60 games in 66 days. Some teams are going to miss a game or 2, whether it's because of the coronavirus or a rain out. It could be a weather reason that they miss a game that they're going to have to make up. You're going to have doubleheaders, and now all of a sudden we get a week into the year, we'll play doubleheaders, 7-inning doubleheaders. We'll change the extra inning rules. We'll, roster sizes. We're doing all this stuff. Like, everything's changing as we go. Nothing has, we are not set in stone. We're not even close to following the rules that were established going into the season. It was the day of the season beginning, that Thursday night. Rob Manfred came on the ESPN broadcast of that Nationals and Yankees game to talk about the playoffs being expanded, for God's sake. Everything's being adjusted on the fly, and it's absolutely ridiculous. You had the Cardinals. I don't even know how many games the Cardinals have played. I don't know how many games they've missed. There's no way they're going to be able to make those up. At this point, they're going to be trying to make up, probably like 55 some games in 50 days, maybe less. That's bad. How many doubleheaders are you playing at that point? And a 7-inning doubleheaders can go by pretty quick. The Orioles, the one that they played against the Marlins, actually went by pretty quick. But still, that's not easy. That's going to take a toll. Logistically, that's not easy. I'd like to see the baseball season continue for many reasons, but if you just don't feel like you have a handle on this, then what are we doing here? That's all I'm going to say. Before I get to the Orioles, this last thing on the Cardinals, like the reason we're actually at this point, the rumors are circulating that some Cardinals players not only broke quarantine, I think that's pretty evident that they went somewhere, that they went to a restaurant, or they went to get carry out, they weren't wearing a mask, or they were hanging around each other without wearing a mask, they weren't taking things as serious as they should. That's bad enough to most people, but there's also these rumors circulating that they're denying. These rumors that some players went to a casino or something. There were rumors circulating around the Marlins too. Some players went to like a nightclub or some ridiculous thing like that. I don't even know what nightclub's open for them to go to, but those were the rumors. Whatever the truth is, Rob Manfred's got to figure it out. Like, look, I took his side on the way that the first kind of flare-up with the Marlins was handled. I completely sided with him on that. I sided with him, and this ties into the point I'm making now, is I sided with him when it came to telling the players that, hey, this is on you. Like, it's your responsibility to look out for each other, keep each other safe by practicing social distancing, abiding by the rules we have in place. So for him to tell the players, hey, this is on you, I completely agree. It is. For all the people out there saying, oh, they should have been playing in a bubble. Guess who rejected that offer? Wasn't the owners. Wasn't Rob Manfred that shooed that away. It was the players. When we had a bubble format proposed on the table, the players said, nope, not doing that. So there you go. You want someone to point the finger at for why we don't have a bubble format? As we look at the NBA and the NHL just doing so well right now? Point at the players. Don't point at Rob Manfred. And when it comes to the Marlins and when it comes to the Cardinals and these little outbreaks that they're suffering, don't point at Rob Manfred, because if these players truly did go to a casino, I don't know how you can, in your right mind, say anything bad about Rob Manfred when it comes to these players testing positive. What do you want them to do? You want them to physically lock these guys in restraints so they can't leave? I know we took this whole pro player route during the negotiations and all this, and the players are the ones entertaining us and they're getting screwed over by the owners and Rob Manfred's evil and all this. It's look, he's still a bad commish. I'm not saying he's a great guy. I'm not saying he's a great commissioner. I'm not saying he's good for baseball. He's obviously not. But for God's sake, this to deflect and say this isn't on the players. Good Lord, it's on the players all day. So where do we go from here? As I said, Rob Manfred needs to get to the bottom of this. He was right to say that this is the player's responsibility, but in addition to that, he needs to take it a step further. He needs to bring the hammer down. Where did these players go? How did this happen? Hand out punishment accordingly. Not the whole team, but the players that directly broke it and put their teammates and therefore the rest of the league in jeopardy. Financial punishment, a hefty fine, maybe a couple game suspension. You got to send a message. You got to get it through these players because, again, these guys, for the most part, these young kids, they don't care. They're rich. They play baseball for a living. They're used to traveling city to city, being celebrities, hot shots wherever they go. Get it through their mind that 2020 is going to be different, buddy. Maybe next year we can come back and have fun as usual. You get back to your usual road trip antics. But not this year. Okay, it's only 60 games, for God's sake. Can you hunker down Can you sit in your hotel room and play video games and order room service for 60 games? Because as an outside observer, it doesn't seem that hard. It really doesn't. I'm done with this whole Rob Manfred's to blame for players testing positive because he, sent them out there to play and set up the season and all that. He dictated the game, the length of the season. That's it. And the only reason we're playing in this format where teams are actually traveling is because, again, who rejected the bubble format? The players. Let's talk about the Orioles. I'm done with this mess. What a week they had. Since the last time we recorded a podcast, they completed a 3-game sweep of the Tampa Bay Rays, of all teams, a team that a lot of people had as a playoff contender. A lot of people had them as a team that was going to compete with the Yankees for the AL East title. Yankees get off to a hot start. Rays, not so much. They get swept by the Orioles. The Orioles had no issues. They took care of Blake Snell. They took care of Tyler Glasnow. Yanni Chirinos took care of him for the sweep. The offense was clicking on all cylinders. The bullpen was pitching well. The starters were going 5 innings, pitching well. The entire pitching staff, it was like passing the baton to one another. The starter would leave the game, pass it off to that first reliever, and from there on, just through the bullpen, everyone take one down, pass it around. It was just complete in sync. Everyone was on their game at the same time. And you complete a 3-game sweep of the Rays. The fan base is on cloud 9. Oh my God, this is amazing. My expectations were low, and you just completely shattered them. So that was great. Then the Marlins come into town, and they're fielding a team that I don't know many of the guys that were on the Marlins opening day roster, but I can't even, the amount of guys that were on the Marlins roster that they fielded in this series this past week against the Orioles, I'm not even sure that some of those guys were baseball players. They might have been ticket takers at the Marlins Stadium that they just got scooped up and they sent them out there to play, because I have no idea where they got some of these guys from. Pitchers, position players, what have you. I knew Jonathan VR. I knew a couple of their pitchers. That's about it. And they swept the Orioles in 4 games. So that's baseball. You have an Orioles team that can sweep a really talented Rays team, turn around, get matched up against a Marlins team that's severely depleted. They had 8 bullpen arms, 8 guys in their bullpen out. All these position players are different. They haven't even played games together for the most part. They have no on-field chemistry. They just sat out. They missed an entire week where they were sitting in their hotel rooms, and you let them roll into your stadium and beat you up for 4 games. And to be fair, the Orioles pitching staff did continue to be good in the first 3 games. John Means, Alex Cobb, Asher Wojciechowski, 3 strong performances. Kept it close, gave up a run or 2 in their starts. The bullpen kept it close. And then in the final game, it was a bit of a shootout. But the Orioles' offense just disappeared in these first 3 games. It's nowhere to be found. I have no idea what happened. The Hanser Alberto didn't have a hit in the first 3 games. Santander couldn't get anything going. Rio Ruiz was still out. Jose Iglesias, I think, was out for the first 2 games. He came back he was out for the first game, came back in the doubleheader, but he joined a lineup that was ice cold. Chris Davis wasn't hitting. Andrew Velasquez, when he was playing, he wasn't hitting. Cedric Mullins wasn't hitting. Dwight Smith Jr. wasn't hitting. These guys were just struggling. And as we know now, it's Saturday. Friday night, they put up 11 on the Nationals. And they did score a lot against the Marlins in the final game, even though they lost. So the offense, I don't know what happened for those 3 games, but it was ugly, and it was downright embarrassing. But the big point, the big takeaway this week has been not just during the Orioles' cold streak at the plate that they had, because it's still, the point here still stands, even if they were hitting well. where is Ryan Mountcastle? Where the hell is Ryan Mountcastle? And why is he not on the major league team right now? Because to me, there's no good reason. Especially, and it was especially frustrating for the fan base during those 3 games where the team just wasn't hitting. You're looking at Chris Davis. You're looking at some of those left fielders, Cedric Mullins, Dwight Smith Jr., DJ Stewart. None of these guys can buy a hit. And you're saying, well, what the hell is Ryan Mountcastle still doing down at the alternate camp in Bowie? We know Ryan Mountcastle can hit. There's still questions about his glove. Where are you going to put him? But quite frankly, can't be any worse of a fielder than Dwight Smith is. And if you put him at first base, he could hold down first base. Renato Nunez was holding down first base. Chris Davis can play first base. You give him the reps there. It's not the hardest position to play. Put him there. Or DH him, for God's sakes. Make him the DH. Put Renato Nunez at first. We know he can play first base. And have Ryan Mountcastle DH. But to me, there's just no reason not to have him on this major league team. Because again, who's blocking him? Trey Mancini's out. And everyone else sucks. Cedric Mullins is a good defender. He can't hit to save his life, though. Dwight Smith Jr. can't hit, can't field either. Chris Davis sucks. We know this. It's not a surprise. This isn't a little, 10-game slump here. Oh, he'll turn it around. No, he won't. I know Chris Davis had a 2-hit game last night. I know that. I'm aware of that. That's not going to continue. DJ Stewart got sent down. He had 14 at-bats this year. Got sent down without a hit. He had some walks, though. He took some walks while he was up here, but he couldn't buy a hit. Finally gets sent down to Bowie. And you're thinking, okay, well, Ryan Mountcastle's going to come up, right? Not necessarily, because we're reaching this deadline here with Major League Baseball where roster sizes need to be cut down a little bit. So DJ Stewart, you send him down. He was probably first on the chopping block anyway. A guy like Velasquez is going to hang around because you just don't, Rio Ruiz, he's back now, and Iglesias is back now, but you need a utility guy like Velasquez who can play multiple infield positions and is a defensive substitute. He's got some speed. You could pinch run him. And Cedric Mullins, great. He can play all 3 outfield positions. Great glove. You keep him around. But yeah, there's just no reason for Ryan Mountcastle to not be on this team right now. And there was I think a Baltimore Sun article that came out. John Mioli wrote it. Very insightful, that said that they're being careful with Mountcastle, even though he's past this window for his service time and all that. And we were just waiting all of last year, and we knew we were going to wait the first couple games of the first month of this season if it was a normal season. That we were going to play the service time game, and then Ryan Mountcastle was going to come up. And we passed that. We're beyond that, and he's still not here. And now we got this story coming out, and it's saying, oh, they're being extra careful with him in the alternate camp in Bowie. They're really working with him to make sure that when he does come up, he's well-equipped to play. What do you mean he's well-equipped to play? We know he's not the best fielder. That's not going to change overnight. You can get him to a point where he's serviceable and he can play first base or he could play left field. But we know he can hit. The guy rakes. He's MVP of the Independent League or whatever it's called. The AAA last year. He was MVP. This guy hits. Bring him to the majors. You want to help this guy? You want to teach him how to play at the major league level? Keeping him around at the alternate camp, taking live BP every day isn't going to help him playing inter-squad games. How's that going to help him? Send him up here. Let him hit. Let him face major league pitchers. And you can't use the excuse that it's too big of a jump for him. And the moment's going to be too big for him. It's too big of a jump. He's not prepared. The guy raked at AAA last year. Not just hit well, he dominated at the plate in AAA. How can you tell me it's going to be too big of a jump for him? How can you tell me he's not ready to come up? He's been ready to come up. To what benefit is it for him to sit down there at the alternate camp in Bowie? He's not accomplishing anything. Who is he facing in terms of pitchers? I don't know exactly what they're doing down there, but they're not playing a normal, they're not playing games. They're not playing other teams. We shouldn't even be having this conversation because we waited and waited and waited. We played the service time game, and now here we are, and he's still not on the major league team, and I don't know what the hell's going on. It got so bad on Thursday in that final game against the Marlins. You're on the brink of getting swept in 4 games here by the Marlins of all teams. A depleted Marlins team. Not even the best Marlins team that could be fielded. This isn't even the best team the Marlins could field because of coronavirus. This isn't even the Marlins at their best. And you're about to get swept in 4 games. I turned the game off. After 4 months of desperately waiting for any sport to come back, especially baseball, just desperately waiting. Oh my God, I would give anything right now to see the Orioles get blown out. I turned the game off. I couldn't watch it anymore. I couldn't bear to stomach it anymore. That's how bad that is. You know how bad the baseball has to be for someone who went 4 months begging for baseball to come back to say, no, I can't watch this? It's like a starving, thirsty guy roaming through the desert. He's looking for anything. He's looking for any drop of water he can get, any little crumb of food. And he gets out and you hand him a plate of food and you hand him a glass of water and he rejects it and he says, no, I won't eat this. I won't drink this. You know how bad the food and the water has to be in that case for him not to drink it? That's how bad the baseball was for me because, oh my God, I was disgusted with the way they were playing. Disgusted. That balk that Wade LeBlanc had, Wade LeBalk, we'll call him that. That's not original at all. I'm sure someone already made that joke. Holy moly, that was ugly. That's on the level of Dylan Bundy last year. Dylan Bundy throws a wild pitch and he just stands there, doesn't cover home plate. And Brandon Hyde's standing in the dugout and the other bench coach standing there. What are you doing? What are you doing, Dylan? You just going to stand there and watch the world burn around you? This is on that level of embarrassment. This is DJ Stewart diving for a ball last year, the ball completely missing his glove and plunking him in the head. And then him missing time because of that. Not just a funny blooper. He actually missed time because of that. But I came back last night, and I'm glad I did, because they got 11 runs on 19 hits against the Nationals. And we'll see. Who knows? For all I know, they'll get them again tonight, and then they'll go up against Steven Strasburg in his debut tomorrow, and they'll get a 3-game sweep against the Nationals, against the defending champs. That's baseball. If that's going to be Orioles baseball in 2020, sign me up. I'm okay with that. Because after as bad of a series as that was against the Marlins, going into this series against the Nationals, you were 5-7. After the win last night, you're 6-7. You're right around 500. It's not like the rest of the AL East besides the Yankees are playing well. Yankees are at 9-4. You're 3 games behind them. I think a lot of people thought that the Orioles would maybe have 2, maybe 3 wins at this point. They're floating around 500. Sweeping the Rays. Got a chance to win a series against the Nationals. They got a series win against Boston. I mean, this team's just going to be weird this year. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what happened that was good for the Orioles this week. Because outside of last night's, just dominant performance against the Nationals, it was hard to find it. But to circle back to the Marlins series, it was mostly the pitching that was good. John Means, he's back. Oh, is he back? John Means looks better than ever. I mean, he looks like not only where he was last year, but better. His fastball's got more velocity. He's hitting 95, 96 consistently on the gun now. That's great. His changeup's still great. So John Means, he's back. Alex Cobb is pitching his best since when he was with the Rays. His splitter is absolutely filthy. Small sample size right now, very small sample size, but I did see some numbers on this that his splitter is getting just the amount of swings and misses, or the whiff rate as they call it, that he's getting on that splitter. Insane. Absolutely insane. Like the swings and misses that he's getting on that splitter, the way it's moving right now, it's as best as it's been in his entire career. So again, small sample size, but keep your eye on that, because as the season continues, and if he pitches this entire year and it remains healthy, keep an eye on those numbers on that splitter, because it's off to just an absurd start. And Cobb's a guy that, there's some other guys in the bullpen that could get traded. I think, everyone's probably got their eyes on Givens just because he's been a prospective trade guy in the past, but you've heard me big him up before. But Miguel Castro, you have some guys in the bullpen that could get traded too. Alex Cobb, if he keeps this up, will certainly garner some attention on the trade market. I got no problem with trading him or anybody, but after this Blyer trade, I'm just sitting here begging Elias, please make sure this is a good return. Like, you really need to sell high, especially with Alex Cobb, because he's a starter, not just a reliever. He's a starter. He's a proven starter in this league. You've seen what he can do at his peak, and if he keeps that up this year, he could be like a really good addition for a team that's going to try to make a postseason run. The Braves stand out as a team that could use a starting pitcher to bring in and go on a playoff run. Please don't sell low. Please don't come off desperate here, because, and I know we haven't had the best guys to trade, but the Blyer trade, the Andrew Kashner trade last year, the return you've gotten, and I'm not saying you should have gotten an insane haul for those two guys, but those were two guys that were proven major league talent that could have helped you, not look so embarrassing last year and this year. And Blyer gets traded for a player to be named later, and Andrew Kashner got traded for a couple of lottery tickets. At a certain point, if this rebuild is going to, not dwell on for, 4 or 5 years, you got to get a return on some of these guys. And if Alex Cobb is going to get you that return, then by all means, trade him. Same thing with Castro, Givens, any of these guys. That's just where I stand. So there was some good, mostly with the pitchers, John Means, Alex Cobb in particular. Wojciechowski looked good. I really liked what I saw from him. Some other guys, not so much. Tom Eshelman, I know he's pitching tonight. He came into a game on, I think it was what was it? It was Wednesday or Tuesday. No, it was Tuesday's game. And that bomb he gave up to Aguilar, oh my goodness. That was a meatball, a colossal meatball. 87 mile per hour fastball or something like that. I might be able to throw faster than that. Maybe not. Probably not. I can't throw 87. I might be able to get, if you put me in the box and had me try to hit 87 mile per hour fastball by Tom Eshelman, I might be able to get the barrel on that. I might be able to get a piece of that and foul that off. I'm not going to hit a home run. I'm probably not going to get a base hit or anything either. But I might be able to get my barrel on that ball at 87 miles per hour. So for a professional baseball hitter to absolutely crush that into left field, yeah, not that surprising. That's your fastball at 87. I am not looking forward to tonight. But who knows? I mean, Tommy Malone shut him down in 6 strong innings last night, so who knows? Tom Eshelman might throw a no-hitter tonight. Who knows? That might do it. Little disjointed episode. Like I said, I did not have the most notes prepared. Probably a lot of rambling, but we'll make it work. In summation, please free Ryan Mountcastle. Bring him up. There's no reason for him to be at the alternate camp in Bowie right now. There's no reason. And for Rob Manfred and MLB, get to the bottom of this. Punish the guys that are responsible here for breaking quarantine, for blatantly putting their teammates in danger, putting themselves in harm's way, and therefore putting the league in jeopardy. Because again, if you're the Brewers, you missed 3 games. If you're the Cubs now this weekend, you missed 3 games. It's not your fault. None of the Cubs players tested positive. None of the Brewers did last weekend. But now they got 3 games that they got to make up in their schedule. It's not fair. Punish these guys. Hit them where it matters. Hit them where they actually care. Hit them in their wallet. We'll be back next week. Hopefully the technology is working next weekend for episode 115. But we'll be back then. More baseball to talk about, I'm sure. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with me as always. We'll talk to you next week.